Hola chicos, today we are going to discuss the particular aspect of the imperative of the commands. We're going to see the nosotros or nosotras commands. We already have seen how to form the commands for usted, ustedes, and tú for the second person. But today we're going to see how to do it for the first person, okay? So we're going to see how to give commands to nosotros. What is it in English? In English, it is let's. When you say let's go somewhere, let's do something, let us. So it is the command for the first person plural. Because you remember, you cannot give commands for all persons. For the first person, you cannot give command. If you want to give command to yourself, then you have to refer to yourself in the third person. Come on, let's study Spanish, for example. But you say it either to we, either to or to you. But you do not say it to I. So today we're going to see the first person plural. In Spanish, you remember they are mandatos or commands. So you remember the story of the three little pigs that constructed houses. Remember? Tres cerditos. They are three little pigs. But less known part of the story, they had a mother. And their mother's name was Amber. And she decided to tie the knot, and she decided to marry the wolf, because wolf actually in one of the versions of the story became reformed. He stopped consuming meat. He became a vegetarian, and he actually fell in love with Amber, and they decided to get married. Did you know that? No? Okay, so we're going to use that story to explain the nosotros commands for this lesson. Okay, so let's go. Let's see. So you already remember that in Spanish there are three groups of verbs. They're AR, ER, and IR verbs. Yeah, the verbs that end on AR, ER, and IR. All right, so let's see how it works. If a verb in Spanish ends on AR, this case, then the opposite vowel, and we used it for the ustedes commands and for the tú commands, it will be E. It is the opposite vowel. So here it will be E instead of EAR. And then the second group of verbs, ER and IR, if it is the case, then the opposite vowel will be A. Yeah? And you see it here. All right, so let's take as an example the verb comer. So which group does it belong to? It belongs to the group 2. So the opposite vowel will be A, and we remember that. In a normal indicative conjugation, it will be, comer means to eat, you remember that. It will be yo como, tú comes, él, ella come, usted come, nosotros, nosotras comemos, vosotros coméis, ustedes, ellos comen. So now, if you need to substitute that vowel, you need to substitute that a, because we decided that that's what we're going to do, for the conjugation. Which conjugation are we working for? I, you, sir, you, madam, and she, he, we, you plural used only in Spain, you plural, and they. So we need this conjugation, is it right? So we substitute here the comemos, that was the normal conjugation, for what letter? For the opposite vowel. That's what we decided. So we substituted for comamos. And that will be your command for nosotros. So if comemos means we eat, comamos means let's eat. Let us eat. Does it make sense? All right. So now here you have a verb ending on AR, pasear. So what would be the opposite vowel for E? pasear. I'm sorry, for AR. For AR, you go here, and the opposite vowel will be E. Is it right? So uh, instead of, let's substitute it in here for the, instead of comer, we're going to use pasear. We're not going to write now all the conjugations because we don't need them, and you already refreshed your memory. So instead, we will write the correct conjugation for pasear, and it will be paseemos. Paseemos, why is it paseemos? Because that is the opposite vowel. For visitar, that you have here, which means to visit, pasear means to go for a walk. Visitar, you're going to use the opposite vowel, and it is the same, and it will be visitemos, right? Why did you put e? Because it is the opposite vowel. And take a wild guess. For hablar, it will be hablemos, because hablar ends on ar, the opposite vowel is e, so you will just substitute a for e because it is the opposite vowel. So it will be hablemos, which means let's talk. All right? So the poor wolf, after marrying their mother, has to work as a Mary Poppins and take the little piglets all over, and he's so sick of it. Turned out they're little brats, and he has to walk with them everywhere. They don't behave well, and then he has to buy ice cream and just take them all over. So what do you think they could do together? We'll think about that. Meanwhile, the wolf and Amber that are getting married, they're making plans for what they are going to do when they get married. So one thing, they will speak Spanish, hablar español. The second thing, wolf became vegetarian, so they're going comer mucha fruta. They're going to eat a lot of fruit, healthy life. And they're going to live in Madrid, vivir en Madrid. So can you make for them the commands? So he says to her, let's speak Spanish. Let's eat a lot of fruit. Let's live in Madrid. Can you do it? That would be a good moment to stop. And then in few seconds, I will turn it on with the answers so you can check your answers, okay? All right, here we have our answers. Hablar ends on AR, and that's why the opposite vowel is E. So the wolf could say, hablemos español. Let's speak Spanish. And then comer ends on ER, and that's why the opposite vowel will be A. So he might say, comamos mucha fruta. Let's eat a lot of fruit. And then finally, vivir ends on ER, and the opposite vowel will be still A. So he says, vivamos en Madrid. Let's live, let's move to Madrid. So we can speak Spanish and eat a lot of fruit. All right. And then you have a few particular cases of that conjugation. So the verb ir, as you know, is to go. And you remember that the wolf is going with the little piglets all over to the museums and has to buy ice cream and lollipops for them. So some commands are not following the rules. Vamos, it is we go, but it also works for let's go. It's an irregular verb, so it doesn't completely follow the rules. The negative command, let's not go, will not coincide. No vayamos, let's not go. So if before, on all previous commands, the commands will not change for negative or affirmative commands, you just need to add no to it. No hablemos español. No comamos mucha fruta. No vivamos en Madrid. It does not affect the conjugation. In this case, they are actually slightly different, and you need to memorize them, okay? Then there is a verb irse, which doesn't mean to go, but it means to go away or to take off. And that's why you use here the reflexive. It doesn't mean to go oneself. It means to take off. And just like in English, when you say I take off, you don't say where you take off. If you say I go, case number one, you say I go home. And same thing in Spanish. And then if you say irse, to split, to take off, you do not say where you go. So you say voy a casa, and you say me voy, and then you don't say where. So the affirmative command will be here, vámonos, let's take off. And no nos vayamos will be the negative command, let's not take off, okay? So they decided to go to the museum. They bought lollipops, ice cream, globes, balloons, globos, sorry, and they went to the museum. Vamos al museo, because they say where they are going. They're using vamos, which is ir. Okay. So that's the sad life of the married wolf who is reformed vegetarian and now has 3 adopted bratty children. All right, let's see a few particular cases with the irregular verbs and also how to use the direct object pronouns with the nosotros commands. You have here the verb decir, to say, and that lo will be added to the end of the command. So the command itself will be digamos instead of decimos. And it will look like the first person conjugation in a regular indicative conjugation, similar to digo, which is the irregular. So it will be digamos. But when you add an extra syllable at the end, the direct object pronoun, then you change the number of syllables, and you have to indicate it with that accent mark, because the accent has to fall on penultimate one before the last, this one, accent syllable, in order not to have the written accent. This word clearly breaks the rule, and that's why you need this accent mark, okay? Next verb is dar, to give. So here it ends on AR, the opposite vowel will be E, so it is démoslo. If you add the direct object pronoun to the command, then again you have to indicate that change in the number of syllables with the accent mark. Cantar, cantémoslo. This one is a regular verb, but it is the same business. If you add the direct object pronoun, you will have to indicate the change of the number of the syllables with the accent mark. Okay? So you have that, and remember that the direct object pronoun could be lo, la, los, me, te, os. It's not just lo. I put lo because it's the default masculine singular direct object. So how does it work with the reflexive verbs that you already know? Levantarse. The verb is regular, but you have se. So it is to get oneself up. So it will be, interestingly, levantemos. So it is levantémonos. But if you have there nos or se, in this case, levantémonos, that s that should be here, it actually disappears. Is it nos? Yes. Or is it se? Yes, that is correct. And that's why, in this case only, you will, instead of levantémonos, that n, that s will disappear, because it's just a mouthful to say levantémonos. So it's just for the better sound. And then finally, there are verbs that have change in spelling, like sacar. You remember that se followed by a, is ka sound. Is it correct? Yes. But if it's followed by e or e, it will be s sound. So if you say saquémoslo and you need here to put e, that combination will give you sacemos, not right. You need to keep k sound. How do you do that? In Spanish, you keep the k sound by q, u, e. So it is a change in spelling, still the change in spelling, but it will not be changed in the sound. So Spanish will preserve the sound even if it requires that change in spelling. So this one is sacar, to take out, and this one is saquémoslo, let's take it out. And I added this direct object pronoun, and again it will change number of the syllables, so it breaks the rule, and therefore you indicate it with the written accent. I hope this lesson was clear, and if you need more examples, please write to me, let me know, and I will record more examples for you. And otherwise, ciao pescado.